All right, guys, how's it going? Today, I just want to talk about employee stock purchase plans, or ESPPs. Now, you might be asking, well, what is an employee stock purchase plan? And that is a realistic question if you haven't worked for a company that offers one. So, ESPPs are basically stock purchase plans offered by a company that you work for, and it's usually you either get discounted shares or you will get, for example, for every share you buy, they will give you a half a share. So you will get basically more value for the same amount of money than a retail investor buying the share on the open market. So let's talk about how an ESPP benefits employees. You get discounted shares. That's the number one benefit. Or you get more shares for the amount of money you invest. Essentially, this allows you to share in the success of the company you work for. That's a benefit to you as well as a benefit to your company. And it also allows you, if your company pays a dividend, it allows you to collect on dividends. And it also allows you to basically do an automatic savings. So usually with employee stock purchase plans, they take a portion of your paycheck each pay period and put those into a holding account. And there's usually designated times of the year where the ESPP will basically go live, where they'll take your money from the holding account and actually buy the shares, and then the shares will show up in your account. The last benefit to you as an employee to take part in your employer's stock purchase plan is the tax benefits. So, for example, the company I currently work for offers a 10% discount on shares. At the end of the year, when it ticks over into January, they'll buy shares in the amount of money that I've saved up over the year from my pay. That 10% discount, I can sell the stock right away, but then that's going to be taxed at my ordinary income rate. Or I can hold the shares for at least a year and sell it, and then that would be at my capital gains rate, which is lower than my ordinary income tax rate. Or I could hold on to the shares for as long as I want to, 10 years, 15 years, 5 years. I can do whatever I want, but there's different tax advantages based on what you choose. So your company might not offer an employee stock purchase program, or if your company isn't a publicly traded company, obviously you may not have that as an option either. There are benefits to publicly traded companies also of offering the ESPP. It turns their employees into shareholders of the company. Usually, shareholders are more engaged employees. They want to see the company do well because they have a financial stake in that company. Also, studies have shown that when companies offer the employee stock purchase plan, employees tend to stay with that company longer. Again, because they have an interest in that company, they have an additional connection to the company. Now, let's talk about some of the downsides of an employee stock purchase program. Some of you that are probably my age or older, you remember Enron. Essentially, Enron had very dedicated and passionate employees. Senior management actually encouraged the employees to invest in the company's stock. And essentially, they were cooking the books and doing some shady things that the general employees pretty much didn't know about. So they were piling their money at management's suggestion and their own suggestions into the stock, which was skyrocketing. There were some whistleblowers that basically told the government, hey, there's some shady things going on here. And the news caught wind of this, and it started getting highly publicized in the news, and the stock basically tanked. There were people that had their life savings tied up in Enron. And I don't know if Enron had an employee stock purchase program, but they did allow employees in their retirement accounts to invest in company stock. So it's essentially the same thing, right? They were encouraging employees to put a lot of money in company stock. And when the stock crashed, there were employees that worked there for 20, 30 years that pretty much lost their life saving. So this is really an ethical dilemma, right? If your company has a stock purchase plan, it can highly benefit you if it is a good company. If your company stock isn't that good, or the company goes through a rough patch, you can really lose a lot of money. So just make sure you're aware of that, and also, don't invest a significant portion of your retirement money or your, outside of retirement money into a single stock, whether that is your company or any other company. You should have a diversified portfolio. So let me talk about my personal experience. I've been at 3 different organizations that offer employee stock purchase plans. The first organization was Home Depot. And how Home Depot's stock purchase program worked, and from what I understand, that has now changed because it's been 14 years now since I've worked there. So how their stock purchase program worked for employees was, it basically, they set a beginning period and an ending period, and you put stock in, you contributed into a holding account throughout that whole period, which was a year long, but it was staggered. It wasn't a calendar year. And once you hit the end of that period, whatever the share price was at the beginning or the end of the period, whichever was lower, you got 10% discount from that price. So essentially, you were getting the lowest share price throughout the year and then 10% lower than that. So I was only working anywhere from 15 to maybe 30 hours part-time while I was going to college. But I made sure I put money in that, and I still own some of those shares today. And Home Depot stock, I think at one point I was getting shares for under $29 a share. And now, last I looked, Home Depot's somewhere around $200 a share. So amazing, amazing returns, and it also pays dividends. So after I left Home Depot, I worked for a rather large international bank. And that bank, after you were there a year, offered an employee stock purchase plan. Now, the company is based out of the UK, so it was kind of weird, and I really didn't like the stock purchase plan because my money was in US dollars, but the stock was purchased in British pounds. And with that, it was confusing with exchange rates and things like that. The stock did pay a 5% dividend. It was a very large corporation. There was, the financial turmoil of 2008 that, we've slowly recovered from over a period of years. So it was, it paid a good dividend, but it really didn't do much. The financial sector struggled for a long time. So I still own some shares in there, but, it was worthwhile. Not as good as Home Depot, that's for sure. So the company I'm with now is a regional bank in the United States, and very good reputation. Now, again, bank prices are kind of, they're kind of the bargains of the stock market right now, right? The PEs are 12 to 13, 14, 15 area, depending on the bank. So under a 20 PE, which is generally pretty reasonably priced. So I've been there about a year now, and I've been, piling as much money as I can into the company's stock. And with that one, I get a 10% discount at the end of the year. I think it's the January 1 price, or it might be the December 28th price. But I basically get a 10% discount from whatever that price is. So not as good as what the Home Depot one was, from the perspective as you don't get it at the lowest price throughout the whole year. You get it at whatever the price is at the end of the year. But again, it's a company that I think over the last 15 years has averaged somewhere around 10% return, and you're getting your 10% discount. So basically very rewarding if, the next 10, 15 years plays out like the last 15, which there is no guarantee, but it is a very solid, financially sound, fairly low risk company. So I hope, my personal story, it was a little bit long, but I've been lucky enough to experience ESPP programs through 3 different companies. I haven't lost any money and throughout all of that. So, it's a net win from that standpoint. And, it's a great thing. And like I said, the main things to remember are, don't throw too much of your total net worth into one of these, or into a single stock for that matter. And, be reasonable. Don't go crazy. Put a reasonable amount of money in there. Hold it for the long term. Try not to sell it. If it gets, where it's an outsized portion of your portfolio, consult with a financial professional, but you might want to take some of that money and sell it and put it into a more diversified ETF or a basket of stocks that you pick versus having too much money in that one single stock. So I hope that helps. Comment down below if your employer does offer an employee stock purchase plan and if you are invested in it and how it has done for you. Don't forget to subscribe.